Narrating.
Hey guys, we're back. This is Fallstreak. Many millennia passed before the waters finally receded. It was only after eons of solitude that the girl spotted life beginning to take root again. Overwhelmed by the moving sight, she began to sob once more, only to drown the fragile seeds of life. In a heartbreaking turn of events, the land became flooded again as she lamented her clumsiness. It was not until many more eons passed that the waters receded and life struggled once more to take root. Placing all her hope in that fragile blooming life, the girl vowed deep in her heart to nurture it with prudence. Resolving to cry just enough that it wouldn't wither, but not so much that it drowned, the girl directed her tears to fall from the sky in delicate equilibrium. Occasionally, she would commit an error, disrupting the frail balance and causing a drought or flood to devastate the blooming flora. In panic and heartbreak, she would weep remorsefully, flooding the land once more. But every time the water cleared away, life always sprang back tenaciously, keeping her belief alive. Repeating that cycle over and over again without losing faith, the girl finally saw the day that people roamed the earth once more. For those people, she continues to weep to this very day, suffering without end so they can live on. To this moment, that girl lives on, eternally bound to the sky. When clouds come and cover the skies, some people feel immense sadness at her tears. Others feel soothed, relieved that they have not been forgotten, and holding her timeless sacrifice dear to their hearts. Some innocent children pout, complaining that they cannot play. With a characteristic shift of her posture that indicated she was getting close to wrapping up, Miss Fay flips the final page. Even after being wronged so harshly by them, she continues to watch over and love people. In times of scarcity, when people suffer from the absence of her blessing, she witnesses their pain and cries so that they might eat and drink. In times of war, when people raze the land and commit atrocities, she beholds their sins and sobs so that the spilt blood might be washed away. And in times of prosperity, when people smile and laugh amidst flourishing fields, she admires their happiness and weeps in mirth so that they might continue to thrive. With a deep breath, Miss Fay concludes their somber story. Slowly shutting the book, she leans back into her chair to let the ending ferment in our minds. So, what do you think? Certainly not the tamest of stories, huh? Miss Fay smiles wickedly as she surveys our speechless faces. What? It's so sad. Shedding tears that would give the rain goddess a run for her money, Lorena latches on to the closest person to her. With a hapless expression, Triss rubs her back as she bawls and blows snot all over him. Throw in a little asphyxiation and you two could reenact the temple scene for us. Knowing these two, though, our tragic narrative would veer straight into slapstick territory. After all she did for them, I can't believe what the villagers did to the girl. It was inhuman. It was perfectly human. Most people would do the same if placed in that situation. Even if I were to die from hunger, I can't imagine doing what they did. We can only say that because we don't know what it's like to be on the verge of starvation. It's not only about yourself as well. Each of those villagers had people they held dear, friends and family that were slowly dying alongside them. If the only way to save your kin is through forsaking an outsider, there's no question what you'll choose. The scale will only ever tip one way if you weigh the life of a loved one against life of a stranger. But the girl wasn't a stranger to the villagers. She had saved each and every one of their lives and suffered beside them. I just can't accept it, how they turned on the very one who reached out to them when they needed someone the most. She must have felt so betrayed, so alone. What I can't understand is, why did they start calling her a witch? What reason did they have to be afraid of her? When people brand someone a witch, it isn't really because they're afraid of the person in question. What they fear is something else. In the end, it's an instrument of dehumanization to protect and preserve their own humanity. It lets them do anything to their victim, free of blame. Because you're not a monster if the one you're torturing is a witch. That's the part I hate the most, to brand her as a witch even though she devoted everything to them. It seriously pisses me off. That must have been how the boy felt when the villagers kept calling her that. He kept rejecting it until the very end. A solemn silence descended upon us as we recalled the scene in question. It's true, the term witch is more often than not a sin of the sayer. Regardless of how the villagers addressed it, though, what lays at the crux of the story is the concept of forsaking one to endure the survival of many. It's classic utilitarianism. I hate that kind of thinking, the idea that humanity needs to sacrifice people for the greater good. I get how you feel, Kalia. But it can't be denied that much of the life we know has been built on the sacrifices of others. Even so, people's lives aren't numbers to be plugged into some formula. Yes, utilitarianism is a philosophy for cogs, not human beings. But it's not always the case that humanity takes lives for the greater good. There are times when people willingly offer it up. I don't think we have any right to deny them from doing so. It was a shaky belief, no, something more uncertain, like a hope. Mother's death on the day I was born, Papa's confession to killing her. The fact that I was here now, at this time, at this place, the fact that she was not. Was Mother's death a sacrifice? A sacrifice to bring me into the world? If so, I wanted to believe, I needed to believe, that she had chosen this path of her own will, that she had wished for it. Humanity will always need a sacrifice, even when it doesn't wish for one. Recall how there used to be rain at the very beginning of the story. It follows to imagine there was previously another sacrifice that made rain fall from the sky. A role that is replaced over time, like a cycle that nobody wishes for, but everyone still needs. Miss Faye adjusts her glasses and gives a small sigh. Listen well, children. All human beings hurt something simply by being alive. Just by continuing to exist, the choice to forsake something to gain something has been made. There is nothing wrong with that. It is no sin to be alive. There was no mistake. She was looking straight at me. Miss Faye, to tell the truth, it didn't matter what the villagers did. Even if the boy never killed the girl and the villagers continued extracting her blood, the village's fate doesn't change. No one can survive having their blood drained like that for long. Eventually, that girl would have perished, with the village expiring alongside her. No matter what anybody does, it'll end in the same way. Something like that is just too hopeless. No matter how much they struggled, no happy ending awaited the characters in this story. Such was the script they were bound by. Rain is saddening, yet soothing. Life is a child that cannot survive without drinking up the tears of the mother that gave birth to it. And yet, in the end, the people were drowned by the very life-giving water that nourished them. How poetic. Unfolding her legs, Miss Faye rises from her seat. Anyways, that's about all the time I have for you, children. Turning to me, Miss Faye pulls a sealed letter out of her pocket. This is for your father, Aid. Be sure he gets it. And make sure you don't peek. I'll tell him he has a new sack of paperwork to finish by tonight. Let's just say the two of us have a long discussion to be had. Though I was curious about the letter's contents, I had no intention of betraying Miss Faye's trust. Thanks for telling such a unique story today, Miss Faye. It definitely made me think, I think is what I was supposed to say. It was pretty messed up, but today's story was one of my favorites. I'm glad we ended up reading it. You better not pull any punches when it comes to intense stuff like this, Miss Faye. The girl's devotion to people was so admirable, even though it was so sad, I really liked it. But maybe it wouldn't hurt to have a cheerier story next week? People fall in love with sad stories as well as happy stories. Compassionate yet cruel, we wish for happiness while seeking sadness. Human beings are such a messy bundle of contradictions. But in the end, isn't that the way it should be? Oh, Miss Faye, Triss is curious what the title of the story is and who wrote it. Unknown, though I can't conceive why. Everything but the text itself has been omitted. A book without a title, where even the author remains unnamed. Don't tell me this is some cliché development where you reveal yourself to be the author, Miss Faye. I can see it. Miss Faye is definitely the kind of person that would write a pitiless story like this. Such aspersions against my character. How rude. Miss Faye's sulky face is the best. Don't you think you should dial back on how much you tease people, Aid? As a wise old woman once said, there's more than one way for someone to express their love, you know. Uh-oh, looks like she is seriously about to pop a vein. Time for a tactical retreat. Dear heavens, look at the time. We better be off now. Good day, Miss Faye. Take care, you little rascals. As I don my rain gear and make to leave with the others, though, a sudden pain spikes through my right eye. Overcome with vertigo, I lose my balance and bump into someone. Oh, Alouette. You've been so quiet, I forgot you were here. Alouette just woke up. Huh, so you were sleeping. For some reason, her complexion seemed much paler than usual. Alouette, is something wrong? What's the matter? If you don't tell me with your words, I won't understand. Alouette had a bad dream. Tell me, Alouette. Drawing close, Miss Faye places her hands on Alouette's shoulders. What happened in your dream? What was it about? No. Alouette doesn't know. Alouette doesn't remember. I see. Go ahead and see the children off. If the rain doesn't get better, you're welcome to stay the night. A sleepover with Belly. Sounds fun. But everyone is waiting for me back home. Without responding, Miss Faye disappears deeper into the building. What are you two dilly-dallying around here for? We're all ready to go. Coming! The pain in my eye was still throbbing, making it difficult to gather my thoughts as I followed behind the others. The rain had greatly intensified during our stay. Its pervasive roaring was as if the earth itself were rebelling against the sky. Wow, it's gotten pretty bad. As much as I'd hate to, should we call it a day and go home? You three go ahead. I need to talk with Miss Faye about something, so I'll be staying behind. Alright, guess we'll see you tomorrow then. Make sure you rest up, okay, Abe? Yeah. Upon separating with them, I gaze up at the dreary, overcast sky. It was there, welling up from deep inside me, a vision of a burning sky. What's this feeling? The feeling that everything is coming apart at the seams. Everything's falling apart. Ugh, pick up the pace, Triss. We're gonna look like drowned cats by the time we get home. The onslaught of raindrops pounded down on us like tiny hammers, rendering Kalia's shouts barely audible. We were running home after separating with everyone else. Something causes me to stop in my tracks, though. Triss, we're not getting drier by the moment here. Kalia complains to me as she skids to a halt. But she falls silent when I raise my hand and point to my ear. Though faint, something that clashed disharmoniously against the roaring rain could be heard. Concentrating on my hearing, I wander off the path into the nearby brush. Is that a bird? Something sounds wrong with it. Something about the cry's tone was hurting my heart. Over there, Triss. It lay in a hole lined with frayed netting. A bird with blazing orange feathers. A phoenix oriole? A species that was supposed to have gone extinct since the fire of collapse? Before us, what was surely among the last of its kind was struggling with all it had to stay alive. The bird cries out pitifully, flapping its wings in a desperate attempt to stay afloat amidst the rising water. We need to save it! I spring into action, dipping my hands into the water to try and pull the bird free. But my blind fumbling is to no avail. The bird's panic flailing and incessant downpour was making it impossible to see. It's drowning. We look on in frozen horror as the bird's head disappears under the surface. Scoop out the water, Triss! Cupping my hands, I shovel the water out in frenzied attempt to drain the hole. But while I'm able to displace enough water for the bird to pop up and breathe, pouring rain makes it so that I can't relent for an instant. If I stop, the rising water will drown the bird in no time. But there's no way for me to free the bird in this state, and I can't keep this up forever. Dang it! Unable to stand by any longer, Kalia throws herself to her knees and plunges her head into the cold water. She must have come to the same conclusion as me. If we can't see what's trapping the bird from above, our only option is to try looking from below the water surface. Cough, cough, cack! Pulling her head above the surface, Kalia spews water out of her mouth as she struggles to catch her breath in the thick rain. It's all tangled up in the netting. But though we knew what the problem was, we were no closer to a solution. We simply didn't have enough to work with. My hands were full scooping out the water, while Kalia had nothing to reach out with. The only thing she could do was look on powerlessly from the side. Her face twists into an expression I haven't seen in a long time. Bitterness, frustration. It's always been like this. Even when it's right before me, I've never been able to. I could almost hear it, the thoughts running through her head. No! Unable to accept it, Kalia plunges her head below the surface and bites into the netting, ensnaring the bird. Wildly, madly, she gnashes her teeth in a desperate attempt to cut through. But though she sticks at it stubbornly for as long as she can, before long she runs out of breath. Cough, cough. Coughing up the water that floods into her lungs, Kalia takes a deep breath and dives back under. But no matter how many times she tries to chew through the netting, it doesn't give. The only thing she was accomplishing was tiring herself out. No. As we repeated our futile cycle, the bird only continued to weaken. Its movements were slowing, its cries growing faint. A realization dawns upon me as my fingers begin to grow numb from the biting chill. At this rate, it's going to die. No, no, no. Kalia croaks weakly as she dips back under after another unsuccessful attempt. But she's only able to hold her breath for a few seconds before having to rise again. My own exhausting act was taking its toll on me as well. I couldn't feel my arms anymore, but even then, we don't stop. Hack, hack! We can't stop. The sound of falling rain. It was the only thing that could be heard. The bird's cries were no more. Slumping to the ground, Kalia stares on vacantly as water overflows the hole. But even though the bird had ceased moving long ago, I don't stop. With hands that had long lost all feeling, I continue to paw weakly at the water. It's the same. It's the same as that time. In my mind's eye, I can't help but see it. The circle of light above us, so far out of reach. The slippery stones surrounding us, so dark, so cold. Her warm blood flowing through my fingers, so red. So red. Stop. Let go of her. Stop it, Triss. Let go of her, Triss. It's dead. She's dead. Oh, I grab at my temples as a nauseating pressure begins to build up in my skull. Deep within me, something begins to smolder. A fire was trying to catch. But deprived of air, it forms nothing more than smoking embers. Why? The well's chilly water slowly running red as the life bleeds out of her body. Something hot begins to leap from the corners of my eyes as images from that time consume my vision. Why? My bloody hands slowly becoming numb with pain as I slam them against the stone walls. The sensations of that day begin to meld and overlap with the present, sending tremors rippling through my body. I'm sorry. Her chapped lips, repeating one thing. I'm sorry. Repeating one thing. The ashes of a failed fire swell up inside me as the verse presses down on my heart like a suffocating vise. I open my mouth in a frail attempt to release the rage and grief searing me. But unable to produce the words that could carry it all away, I choke and gag pathetically. It was like there was a cork in my throat. With no way to escape, the cloud of swirling cinder claws madly at my insides. I'm going to burn away from the inside out. Words that wouldn't come. A flame that could not be extinguished or quelled. No matter how much I wanted to howl and roar with all of my heart, I couldn't utter a single thing. So I start to run. I take off with all of my might into the curtain of falling rain. Triss! Kalia screams out from somewhere behind me, but her cries don't reach me. With no regard to where I'm heading, I dash forward madly. I just don't understand. Why? Why can't I do anything? Yet again, I was powerless, unable to even cry out in protest as it all slipped through my fingers. Triss! I'm chasing after something, but I can't see what. For some reason, I could barely make out what was ahead of me. Something was clouding up my vision so much that I could only vaguely discern its receding outline. Triss! It's getting away. It's getting away. It's getting away. Triss! Even though it had long disappeared from view, I don't relent in my pursuit. I didn't know any other way to deal with all the things smoldering inside me. So even though I could barely see in front of me, I continued to run. Forward, forward, endlessly, eternally. Triss. My lungs are tearing to pieces. My heart is pounding into paste. My legs are crumbling beneath me. With no outlet, the hot pressure continues to build up inside me, like a bottle of scalding liquid that had been violently shaken up. Triss! I'm sorry, Triss. I'm sorry you had such a monster for a mother. I stumble, trip, and collapse to the ground. But it still wasn't enough. The things inside me were still burning, burning, burning. This feeling of being stifled and smoldered, I couldn't stand it. Unable to find any release, I curl my hands into claws and began gouging out chunks of the muddy earth below. But unsated by its lack of resistance, I began to rip at my skin and hair feverishly. I wanted to scream out with all of my soul, cursing this world for tearing away what I held dear. But I had no voice to protest the world's cruelty. My mouth merely flapped open and shut pathetically like a dying fish. Thump. Someone wraps their body around me, enveloping me in a maddeningly warmth. Triss, please. Kalia pleads to me as she hugs me ineffectually with her stunted arms. I thrash wildly, violently knocking her into the mud. But undeterred, she gets back up and throws herself on me again. Triss, stop. You're hurting yourself. Unable to stand the sense of restraint, I shake her off once more. But even though she can't hold on to me very well, she doesn't stop trying. No matter how many times I send her tumbling into the mud, she stubbornly flings herself back onto me. After a final attempt to subdue me, I collapse face first in the mud, panting heavily as Clea embraced me brokenly from behind. Brokenly. Our heavy breathing and the rain's apathetic pattering were the only sounds that registered in my dim consciousness. I wanted to close my eyes to the world, to deny everything that made it up. I wanted to disappear, to wake up to a place where everyone welcomed me with warm smiles. I desired nothing more than to hear her gentle voice telling me it was all but a horrible nightmare. For a moment, I felt like what I wished for would actually come true, but then Kalia spoke, tearing me away from that hopeless dream. You remembered, didn't you? How Mommy died? Her words cut into me like a sharp blade, forcing me to stay rooted in reality's cold domain with her. You still carry it with you, even now. It lay on the ground before us, a piece of fabric stained with blood. The blood was an illusion, one I've never been able to escape. Mother's handkerchief. After all these years, it had lost its vivid blue tint, leaving nothing but shades of phantom red. It was a reminder of that day, the day Mother and I fell into a well, the day Mother tried to kill me, and the day she died. I shut my eyes tightly, but the tears continued to squeeze out from beneath my eyelids. Overhead, the rain had begun to intensify. Crying under the rain was meaningless for one without a voice, because even if they were to cry for eternity, under the rain, no one will ever notice. Alright guys, that's going to be it for this episode, so stay tuned for the next episode.
Thanks for watching!